Yep, you heard the title right. How are we doing, Beatstar players? This is Ivory Survival 5 here, and today I want to just get into today. With Season 49 recently be coming out and not a lot of players want to buy the pass, I decided to put my own hand towards it and actually want to play all throughout Season 49. So I'm here to review and give my thoughts on this new update that Beatstar has given. So, what are we waiting for? Let's begin. The Season 49 Tour Pass is actually named after Rock Revival, even though it's kind of redundant since Seasons 42 and 45 exist, being a lot of resurrection for rock music. But this season's all about repeats, alternative versions of each chart. This season has the pretty weirdest of formatting, 4 normals, 3 hards, and 2 extremes. So while being the first season of doing so, it's unfortunately the one with the repeats. But let's see if these charts will hold up, shall we? Let's begin, shall we? The first song we're going to be looking at is In the End by Linkin Park. Fairly strange to have this one be an alternate already, since the song's not very much that old already, only 3 months being old since Season 45. And this one actually being turned into a normal actually does make sense in some part. It does a really interesting job of actually trying to figure out how to undertranslate the vocals and instrumentation. It's nothing that special, I'll admit, but it's a decent practice for players trying to learn the hard. So I will give this one a B+. You could argue that's definitely lower since it's nothing special compared to the hard or even the deluxe, but I think as a normal chart, it does its job solidly. Next we're going to be looking at is American Idiot by Green Day, being a normal. Yeah, despite the normal being pretty half-assed, and I think that this one does have a bit of flair to it. I do think the final state is actually really good and actually has some reminiscence towards the hard. I feel like most of it gets lost in the process when being downgraded. While I didn't find the hard to be that good in my opinion, I do actually appreciate some of the really fun things around it. This one just basically screams nothing much until the very end, and of course nothing really feeds Deluxe Extreme. I'm going to give the normal a B. It's definitely nothing I would be rocking over again, but just to see a solo again and something as normal, I think say it's worth at least one play. Next we have is Misery Business by Paramore, being, you guessed it, a normal. The original standard was a hard and the deluxe is extreme, and this one it feels like my least favorite of the normal so far. I feel like most of what happens get lost in the process of suffering from awkward undercharting. The vocals in stage 4 particularly is really weird and confuses me. It makes me concerned why they have to make an easier version of the song, but I think technically it does help players understand how the vocals work. I do think the last 2 stages save the chart in its tougher parts, so with that notion I'm going to give this one a B. If you think this one's at least a C, then I do understand perfectly here, and I do think that there are some fun parts in this chart, but it's nothing much other than just okay. Next we have is Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy. You may think this is strange enough, but this is probably my favorite of the normals actually. Maybe it's because the hard in and of itself didn't have that much needed to be changed, and some of the undercharting didn't bother me or anything like that. But I felt like what kept this one perfectly well is that it has some of the strengths as most Fall Out Boy normals. Perfectly well-paced rhythm, nicely charted vocals, even if definitely is pretty underplayed. I do consider the hards definitely a lot better, but I think the alternative did well as it is. So I'm going to be giving this one a B+. Definitely on the same level as In the End, saying that it didn't need to exist, but I'm at least glad it did a solid job. Now on to the hards with Stacy's Mom by Fountain of Wayne. Sheesh, Beatstar must really love Stacy's mom. Anyway, this one actually definitely was really fun to play. I think this was actually pretty much a given since the whole entire song and Beatstar knew they had to be tongue-in-cheek with this chart, and how they upgraded a bit to be not a definitely hard, but definitely one that definitely does a little bit of practice, really does save it from actually being something more than just boring. So I really think here some things like the final stage with the swipes and the holds really do a good job of actually trying to pull the chart together. So with that said, I'm going to be giving this one an A-. Definitely better than the normal, but I'm not sure if it's better than the deluxe. And next we have All the Small Things by Blink-182. The original standard was a normal, the deluxe was extreme, so this is the first song in the chart that has a sub in the middle difficulty. What I really find interesting about this one is that, unlike the standard, and hell, even the deluxe, this one actually takes the instrumentation to a different level. I never actually seen them for the second verse actually try more of the percussion, but they actually did it. It definitely actually has a little bit of mixing of both of them in between, and I didn't expect a lot of the repetition for the percussion by the end. And I have to say, it gave what I asked for, a really fun and interesting part. I'm going to give this one an A. Definitely probably one of the better songs this season, and definitely one of the better repeat charts. So if you do get this one, I'd say it's worth a really good play. Speaking of good, we have I Write Sins Not Tragedies by Panic at the Disco. With the standard being normal, the deluxe being a hard, it obviously wondered for me that season 27 had a lot of more tougher normals. I did wonder what this one would look like as a hard, and I was not disappointed. This one did a really great job of actually trying to make it stand out perfectly well on its own. Maybe it's because it actually utilizes differences in some way, but I really think it does a really amazing job of trying to bump up the difficulty that was really needed. So with that said, I'm going to be giving this one an A as well. Really fun, and I really think it does the hard difficulty surprisingly well. Now to the extreme, with the first one being a country star fourth named Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner. Well, at least people are happy that we finally have a country extreme in Beatstar, but unfortunately, I don't like this chart that much. I still think it's a good chart overall, but there are some problems that do prevent it from me calling it a great extreme. Firstly, when porting it from Country Star, you do have to realize that sometimes porting in the process will lose a few things. This includes scroll speed and shaping of notes. I do think I understand what they were trying to go for by actually trying to make it a little more tricky and more on the nose with the solo. But actually, the first four stages are actually not that hard, with only the solo and this final stage being hard. So I'm going to be giving it a B. If you like it, I understand why, but this one didn't really do it much for me. And finally, Enter Sandman by Metallica, with the original standard being a hard and the deluxe being extreme. I have to say, I was really surprised with this one. As I mentioned before, I didn't notice how undercharted the solo was in the hard and heck, even the extreme in some areas. And I'm happy to say that this one did the solo pretty much the best way possible. Well, not officially the best way. I do think some parts are a little bit on the nose as well, but I do think this one really pulled it well, eventually trying to pull stuff for a really fun chart, and a really decent alternate version all the way. This one pulls more of the instrumentation really clearly, and you better be careful about where you tap. I'm going to be giving this one an A+. Definitely my favorite chart of the season here, but if you think it's actually on the lower end, then I definitely understand why. It's just definitely the one that gave the most surprises. So with that said, this season was all about the alternates about each chart. I do think that buying the season, in my opinion, have a few pros and cons. The pros are is that the season is definitely the shortest of any season, with only being 14 days, so it's the easiest to get through. Another thing is that all the charts, when you actually do play them, are decent at worst and great at best. We also get 2 standard extremes, which is actually really nice. Except I think maybe that was a given since they wanted to promote Country Star with their own higher Sweet Home Alabama extreme. And of course, this one was actually more chill for players as they don't have a lot of deluxes to collect. And they do have a lot of deluxe cards to actually collect as well when you actually buy the pass. However, the cons do stand a little bit differently. There are no new songs. There are already songs in this game, but just with a new version. That kind of does actually spell a little bit of problems for some people. As with the next con being that players may not like spending just $10 just to actually get the same songs that they have in Journey or in the boxes. It's just the same songs all over again. In fact, these songs over here don't even have themselves a deluxe alternative either, so it could not be worth a lot for many. Now let me talk about a little bit more about this new kind of update. We have new alternate versions of these songs in the game, mainly being ones from either Journey or Past Tour Pass. So the only intention so far with the alternate versions of these charts is that either the new charts will get a downgrade from a hard or an extreme, so new players can practice these songs on an easier mode, or these charts can get an upgrade from either the normal or the hard, so pro players can have a different version of the song, either maybe instrumental or trying to get the vocals. So with this come in mind, is a new update good in this regard? some people thought a different version was Uncharted. Maybe this alternate version can actually top it. But the no comes into the fact that these versions are coming out during the Tour Pass, and it's an unusual way to play new charts in the game where deluxe mode still exists. And when the fact actually comes into mind that probably over half of Journey still doesn't have itself a deluxe variant, that could scream yikes for some people who do play the game and do buy deluxe cards. So with all that said, what are the better ways that you can add this alternate version of charts in this game? Well, the first suggestion I have is that maybe you can add them during wheel events or Chaser. This could actually allow players to actually have an idea here of actually trying to want to replay this chart again, except playing a different alternate version. That way, when these prizes do actually come towards the boxes, it'll be more surprising and less more than just buying a tour pass just for the same song. The second option I have is maybe structure the tour pass a little bit differently in the season. I really want the tour pass to keep being more about the new songs that actually promote more underrated artists, or maybe future artists in the game that still have a lot of songs that they have. I do think with the newer update you're trying to do in seasons 47 and 48, it could work with 7 songs, and maybe consisting with only 1 or 2 alternate versions inside of the tour pass could actually be a really good indicator for actually promoting the theme. And the third option I have is putting these alternate versions in Journey, but not in a separate new box to collect cards. I feel like with Deluxe being the main handle about how much cards players are collecting nowadays, I feel like actually adding an extra box for those alone is going to strike a big red flag for a lot of players. Or alternately, you could just basically put it in the shop in a new box to buy. Maybe being at least a little cheaper than some boxes, maybe at least being 99 gems or 129 gems. I just want new players to actually understand here that when you actually look at these charts pretty clearly over here, they should know for a fact that we do, as a community, care about those who actually play the game, and they should actually be able to acquire the songs in a more sophisticated manner. So with these new alternate editions of these charts, I think it's best that we can do is just wait and see what happens with the new system. Obviously, this is an experiment that Beatstar is actually trying to put out to its players, and overall, Season 49 is not the worst Tour Pass season. I mean, it's not boring like Season 43 or just really bad like Seasons 34 or 24. But I will say that this season is the most bizarre, and a lot of pro players, even new players, were very disappointed that no new songs were added. I do understand this criteria, and I do think that it's a very substantial reason. So I will say that if there's an alternate version of this season, or any other seasons in the future that do this, only buy the season if you're curious to try the new additions. Like, you're like, oh, I wonder what this version is like, or I wonder if this is just the vocals. But I would not say to buy it if you're not satisfied with just having everything else just playing on if you just play the same song. Especially with those kind of songs do have standards and deluxes in mind. But thank you all for actually watching to the end of this video. I really had a lot of fun making this one, and I really think that this was actually a lot of fun making. Maybe I won't buy all the tour passes along the way, and this will probably be my only season review because I really wanted to show how bizarre this season was. But maybe down the line I could actually buy another season, or maybe revisit a few other seasons that do need an extra review. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.